Bashem, Yahushua, Bashem, Rakakadash, the Vanity Apostles, Elders, and Bishops of Great Millstone who grew well and also taught me this truth. Shalom to your Akim out there pushing the truth for sincerity and use your body as a living sacrifice, as the scriptures say. Shalom to the few sisters that listen in silence, as the scriptures say. You sisters of the faith, there are elect women. I am Karab, children of the light, with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And I was just scrolling through, and this came down my timeline, Let's read. It says, there's Chicago Metropolitan Alumni Chapter. There is something special about seeing our sorrows together. Standing in front of the Obama Presidential Center, we were reminded that every woman in this chapter brings her own gifts, talents, and commitment to service. Individuality, we make an impact together with respect, a legacy that continues to grow. That's all I'm going to read. Here's the sisterhood, right? And this ain't shit but a bunch of witches. This is a bunch of witches in front of this monument. And you see they got on all red, And red signifies energy, passion, protection, And that's what they did. They put a protection spell around here. See, this is the witch's circle, which is a practice in witchcraft, See, this is modern day Babylon, because this is what it all goes back to. For there is no new thing under the sun, man, And that's why this place is going down. Look at that. Look at that. It look like something out of Handmaid's Tale, But that's the witch's circle. That's exactly what it is. And they trying to cast the spell of protection, to protect their empire, But it's over with. This place is going down, man. And there's a 6 in this circle, There's a lot of things, a lot of symbolism here, So let's go into some scriptures real quick. I was reading a few of the comments too. And man, for my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, man. And it shows you that this is a feminine world, man. A feminine spirit. But the masculine spirit is coming. The enchantments is not gonna work, man. Pursuant to Isaiah the 47th chapter. Bear with me. Matter of fact, just a second. All right, so we'll just do a quick AI overview. It says, witches holding hand in a circle typically refers to the popular, and this is AI overview, coven, Halloween yard decoration, or traditional Wiccan/pagan ritual imagery, right? So let's go to ritual circles. In Wicca and in witchcraft, holding hands in a circle signifies unity, grounding energy, and that's what they were doing, and casting a protective boundary doing spell work or Sabbaths. And there's a lot of information coming out about those fraternities and sororities, as we've been telling you, because you're joining a covenant, you're becoming idols, you're sacrificing unto idols, and we're not Greek at all. Why would we be practicing Hellenistic customs? The scriptures say, learn not the way of the heathen. We're not going to go too deep. Okay, red. This was another search. It says, in witchcraft, red is a potent primal color associated with life force, passion, courage, and action. It is heavily utilized in spell work, right? And that's why he was in that circle, for love, lust, um, vitality, and aggressive protection. See, they go that word protection again. Because of its intensity, it's also a color of boundary setting, right? And wandering against negative energy. You know, so it's a protection spell that they're casting in front of the Obama Center. You know, so let's get a few scriptures. Letter. Let's go with Revelation 17. This is Revelation 17:1. And the subheading says the doom of Babylon. And America is the modern day Babylon. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show thee. I will show unto thee, Salakia, the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And that's them doing those deals, accepting that democracy, thinking like an American, and that's been done all over the world. You got to call it's called a term called the Americanization. Like when you go to China, you can actually see those Chinese men wearing suits. They have McDonald's. If you go to Palermo, Sicily, you can order American style food there. If you go anywhere across the world, basically, right? So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, right? And all them had on red. Scarlet is a red, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, right? And they're going to the NATO and the EU. And the woman who was arrayed in purple and in scarlet, Salaki, and the woman who was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication, right? And that's that ideology, that's that rainbow coalition, that's all its philosophies, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abomination of the earth. And that's this place, and the whole world is really mad at Babylon. The whole world is, because they're messing up the economics, the flow of trade and commerce and the oil prices, and inflation. Okay. Okay, let me go to Nahum 3. Nahum 3:1. Woe to the bloody city, it is full of lies and robberies, the prey departeth not. The noise of a whip, the noise of the rattling of the wheels, and of the prancing horses, and of the jumping chariots. The horseman lifteth up both the bright sword and the glittering spear, and there is a multitude of slain, and a great number of carcasses, and there is none end of their corpses. They stumble upon their corpses, because of the multitudes of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcraft. See, that's the point here. That's what I want to get to. See, this place is the mistress of witchcraft. You have, there's a place called Hollywood, and Hollywood go back to the ancient Druids who used to make their wands their wands from the holly tree. They used to use the holly wood, to make their wands to cast the spell. So now Hollywood is an actual place through the TV is casting spells, casting imaginations. Got the people all bugged out. From you know from basically reprogramming them. There's a term called no, Salaki. There's a word. They actually say TV programming. Back in the day, if you had a TV guide, it'll tell you, the TV programs, right? Because it's programming you. And they use it through this word called entertainment. But when you go into the Greek, actually I was going to do it, but now I'm okay. You can do it, But when you go into the Greek, that word goes into psychogia, somewhere along those lines. But it goes into the definition stating that it is the guiding of one's spirit or soul, So they actually guiding, through the TV, the programming, these people to have certain ideologies, to be totally bugged out. And that's why it's called Babylon, because this place is confusion, You approach a person, you can approach any kind of any you can approach people, and they all have different perspectives to things, Like you may approach a cute little girl, young woman, not a little girl, but a young woman, maybe 25, and she'll have the ideology that, she can do just as good as a man in everything, And then you approach another little sweetheart, and she might, have she might be soft spoken, It's weird, Nevertheless, yeah, this place is mad. You got men thinking they're women, you got women thinking they men. It's bugged out. You got some women that want two husbands, And then you got niggas out here that actually do that, which is crazy. All right, it says 4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcraft, that selleth nations through her whoredom. Right? How? Through her democracy. There's a thing called the economic hitman. Where they go to different countries and they try a soft approach, where they might tell the leader, well, we need 2,000 acres. We want to set up a mall. We want to set up McDonald's, Subway, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and we're willing to give you $200 million a year. And then if the leader of the country say, nah, he's not with that, then they come in and use the military, And you recently saw that with Venezuela, So you either have to take the deal so that you can be protected, so that you can be, counted as a nation, a seat at the UN. You can get aid, That's how they do these things. Why do you think there's a U.S. military base? Okay, Shalom, I'm back. That was a phone call. I put on Do Not Disturb, and it still came through. But nevertheless, we were at Nahum 3 and 5. No, 4. And I got my Blue Letter Bible app, open. So you can see the King James on the left and the NLT on the right, Okay, it says, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms, and families through her witchcrafts. And when I was speaking earlier about, well, let's read NLT. I'm jumping the gun. All this because Nineveh, the beautiful and faithless city, mistress of deadly charms, right? And that's what this place is. It's casting spells on you. You know, like even the rap music. You know, those are enchantments. That music is seducing people to do, sending, giving you vibrations to do negative shit. You know, all right. It says deadly charms incited the nations with her beauty, right? Because at one point, everyone wanted to come to America, to chase the American dream. You know, America was the golden city of the world. You know, people literally said that the streets was paved with gold. All right. Um, Deadly charms incited the nations with her beauty. She taught them all her magic, enchanting people everywhere. You know, and that's what this place is. That's what this place does. You know, and they're gonna have to pay for that. You know, the Lord is not playing. That's why you're seeing stuff go down in the world. You know, like 2 Ezra 9:1 say, measure the times diligently in itself. You know, you got a lot of seismic activities happening. You had those two massive earthquakes in Venezuela where they're reporting 1,400 dead, but it could be more. You know, they're saying there's a lot of children missing too. You got the what is that, the ice flood in Idaho. Look it up. You know, it's flooding in Idaho with big chunks of ice, you know, floating in the streets. Alaska's had a crazy flood. You know, it's going down all over the world. You know, the street signs, the street lights and the roads are melting in Europe. Europe is at a record high temperature. Said this is the hottest it's ever been. You know, so there are tokens, right? Come down and sit in the dust, Salakia, Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Right, because this place is going down. It's being destroyed, you know. And right now, you know, the actual destruction hasn't even happened yet, you know. And that's why they speed that clock up, because they know that they have but a little time, as the scriptures say. Take the millstone and grind meal, uncover thy locks. Right, that's what we're doing. We exposing Babylon and her shameful spewings. Make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered. And that's what Nero is trying to do. Trump. You know, Nero 47. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to, you know, he's trying to cover up that shame by taking slavery out of the books, by not acknowledging, because the UN acknowledged that the most heinous crime that ever happened in history was the transatlantic slavery. But guess what? Two nations opposed it. Well, three. You know. Okay, it says, thy nakedness shall be uncovered. Yeah, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. See, the Lord said he's going to take vengeance, and he's not coming as a man. He's coming in all his glory. You know, he's coming as a Super Saiyan. You know, Ultra Instinct. That's how he's coming. Yahweh Shai is not playing. As for our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit thou silent and get thee into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. Right? Because of for a long time, you know, this was the place to be. But now you see, especially in Los Angeles, Apostle Gabar done a lesson where it showed you like how all of the businesses and shops were closed in downtown Los Angeles, homeless everywhere. You know, the infrastructure, you know, the infrastructure is messed up. Look at the infrastructure of America and then look at the infrastructure of China. You know, yeah, bridges here that haven't been worked on in 60 years. You know, I was wroth with my people. I have polluted my inheritance and gave them into thy hand. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. Right. Because they never let up off of us. You know, they still killing us to this day. They never gave us our heritage. You got Jake still marching and screaming for reparations. You know? And Esau is not going to give you no reparations, man. He's not. And even if he did give you some money, it still don't make up the fact for what he done. He still got to pay for what he done. Like the scriptures say, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the faith and patience of the saints. You know? So we'll take the money, but you still gonna get this ass whooping that the Lord has already written upon you. Okay? Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke. Yeah, even on the elderly. You know, people can't even retire. They retire and have to go get another job, you know, because they have to pay for their health care. You know, and health care is very expensive. It's expensive as hell. You paying at least $1,000 a month. You know, and don't have to go see a specialist. Okay, and that's if you got some good insurance. You know, you get on that Obama plan, shit. You a single individual, you probably end up still paying $500-$600. You know, plus paying for your medication. Medication is expensive without no insurance. You fuck around and get 10 pills for $100. Okay, and thou saidest, I should be a lady forever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Right. See, the wicked elite know the consequences to this. That's why they trying to avoid it and get up out of it. But you see Eve all in front of the Barack Obama Center trying to cast that spell of protection. That shit is not going to work. It's over with. You know? It is over with. The Queen of Heaven spirit is over with. Esau abandoned them women a long time ago. He worried about his own ass at this point. You know, and that's why their benefits are drying up. Trump killing all the benefits. He's killing the SNAP, you know, the DEI, you know, the low incomes, the Section 8, you know. He's snatching the rug right from under their ass. It's ultimately Yahweh Shah doing it, but he's using Esau to do it. Okay, therefore here now this thou art given to pleasures that dwellest carelessly, that says in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. Right. And that's this, and that's America. Everybody wants to live in pleasure, man. You know? And they careless as shit, especially these women. It was a video of this woman out there outside. I said it'd be like South Carolina or North Carolina, somewhere around that area. Maybe even Florida. I don't know. It was somewhere. in the South. And everybody outside 2 in the morning. You know, it looked like Jake and them was just leaving clubs or whatever the case may be, and she out there with her baby, ass cheeks out. That's careless, man. And she was a little bitty thing, small, like 5'2", skinny. Motherfucker snatch you and your baby. You know? That says in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. Right. That's the Edomites, man. They got that godlike complex. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But she will. But because the scripture gonna say it right here. But 9. And I'm excited. See, I'm jumping myself. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment. In one day, the loss of children and widowhood, they shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. Right? See, and that's what's going on in front of the Barack Obama.